Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is Tuesday, and our virtual happy hour continues, or even starts, for lack of a better word. We're excited you're joining us tonight. I'm your host, Greg Vola, founder of Untappd. We're excited to talk about an interesting trend this evening, non-alcoholic beers. And with that, I want to bring in my guest, John Walker, who is the co-founder and head brewer at Athletic Brewing Company. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're super excited to chat with you. But first, we got to get to the beer. And I want to remind you, as you're checking open your beer tonight, make sure you check in your beer on Untappd and add the Untappd at home venue. Great place where you're being safe out there and be able to tag and see what your friends are doing out there. So obviously, we've talked about this for a little while. We've got a blog post that went on today about non-alcoholic beers. John, tell us what you're drinking tonight and a little bit about your beer that you're making there.
The beer I'm drinking tonight is our Run Wild IPA. It's one of our flagships, one of the two that we came out of the gate with right at the beginning. And it is a kind of, to spin on a classic IPA. Naturally, it's non-alcoholic. Got, really delicious hops. We've got the Mosaic, Citra, Chinook, Cascade, some goodies, some oldies. And, it's just like a nice, balanced, timeless IPA. So it's got a good malt backbone and super refreshing.
Awesome. Well, I'm also drinking one of your beers as well. It is the Cerveza Atletica. I've had this for a little while. The funny story around this is that my wife is pregnant and she really was craving a beer. So we went to the local package store there and we grabbed this as well. So I've tried this before. It's pretty amazing for someone that's been drinking beer all their life. And we'll get into more about the non-alcoholic stuff. I almost feel like if you put a wrapper around this and didn't call it non-alcoholic, I probably wouldn't even really notice, which is good because that's the point of what you guys are trying to accomplish, I would imagine. But let's crack open these beers and we'll drink them and we'll talk about them. And if you're out there as well, crack open your beer and make sure you check into that Untappd venue as well, as we mentioned at the top of the show. So get this in this glass here. I didn't mess up the pour.
I'm a little uncouth. I was going out of the
there you go. Well, cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers. Thanks, John.
Cheers. Thank you. Yeah, the Cerveza, kind of funny on our end, was that beer was that was one of those beers where we had a name first. Try not to tell that story too often, but basically, just a take on a Mexican amber lager.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the crazy things about non-alcoholic beers is the flavor. And I think, anyone growing up in this day and age thinks of non-alcoholic beers. They think of O'Doul's or the old days of, my grandfather always used to drink O'Doul's when he was older. And, it's definitely changed. So I guess we'll jump right into it. Why non-alcoholic and what is Athletic bringing to the table here that makes it a little bit different than your standard non-alcoholic beverage?
Why non-alcoholic? I guess the simple answer is why not, and why.
Very true.
Why hasn't there been around the world? It's actually a pretty popular drink, and for such a long time, it just had this stigma around it, and it was kind of like a penalty box drink, and hadn't been any innovation in the category, and everybody just kind of lost sight of it. And so culturally, I think we just got away from it and kind of shunned it to some extent, or it worked its way on there, and so. We decided that we wanted to make a beer that was totally inclusive, that anybody and everybody could enjoy any night of the week. You can have a delicious craft beer, but not get, not have the impairments of alcohol. Because, let's face it, not all of us need it all the time. And, so it just makes sense. And so what we sought out to do was just really, make a delicious, full flavored, non-alcoholic beer that was creative and fun and explorative and captured all the flavors of what craft does so well. And so just reinvigorating the category and piggybacking off of what craft beer has done in general.
Yeah, it's interesting. We posted a blog post today about the exploration into this style. It's a very hot topic and a lot of interest from the community as well. It's interesting overseas in countries like Sweden and Netherlands, there's a much more higher population of people checking into non-alcoholic beverages. Some of that's cultural driven, but we're definitely seeing a big uptake in the U.S. check-ins at 7% of the top 5 countries there. What do you think is the reason why this style has become back into population? Is it because of the more healthier lifestyles that we're trying to promote, or are there other reasons why you think that non-alcoholic beverages are starting to get more traction?
I think it's because of the health benefits, and people are becoming a little more health conscious and aware of what's around them in the world. Going green can mean so many things, and you can adopt that lifestyle as well. And going non-alcoholic is a great way to do that. I also think that people are getting creative around the world, non-alcoholic beers, and so the flavors are like evolving, and there's more to choose from, and people are realizing that maybe it's not just alcohol that they love, but they actually really enjoy the ingredients behind it, and those ingredients are reason enough to drink a beverage. And so I definitely found that myself with alcoholic beers, that it turns out I just love malt and hops, and I kind of knew before, but I didn't know that those were like the primary features that I was drawn to. And so now I do, and I'm guessing some other people do too.
Absolutely. Well, if you're listening out there and you want to ask John a question about his brewing background, or perhaps maybe a little bit more about the non-alcoholic scene, use your platform, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, and ask those questions there. We'd love to kind of feature them as well, to get those questions to John. So thank you very much for all of your questions there. One of the other things that are interesting to me, specifically about this category, is really on the front of the flavor profiles that you mentioned. I think one of the interesting parts, and that, like you mentioned about the stigmata of the non-alcoholic category, is, like I said, if you covered the label on this, I would never know that it's not alcoholic. It has the same taste, the feel that a regular beer would have with an alcohol in there. Is that part of the strategy when you're brewing your beers, that you want to take it as closely aligned to what a beer with alcohol actually tastes like? Or do you start from the ground up and then don't add the alcohol in there? How does that process work when coming up with flavors?
What we kind of did, and honestly, like, this was Bill's idea in the first place, but what we did was we decided that we wanted to make this delicious non-alcoholic beer, and we kind of started from ground zero. And, there are these older technologies that people have been using for a while, and just, people make great beer on them, but we didn't feel like the innovation was there for us. And so we set out to make basically a beer that tasted like a beer with all the delicious ingredients, and that just doesn't have the alcohol. And we worked hard at it, and we continue to do so. And it's it's not easy, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of faith on a lot of people's parts, especially in the very beginning. But I think we've got a great process now, and an incredible team who's just really kind of branching out every day, making new stuff and being creative.
Absolutely. You've definitely got some fans as well in the chat as well. This one's from Something Cool. So I love the Run Wild IPA. I tried the Goes in Your Trap Room once, and that was even better. So obviously you've hit a nail on the head for the fans out there. That's pretty cool to see.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's super fun. Like, we honestly, it was just like reinventing craft to some extent for some people. And like, nobody had done this in so long. So to be able to just kind of revamp all these styles that we love in craft and do them in a non-alcoholic format for beer lovers and non-beer lovers, it's been super rewarding and awesome.
Yeah, man, I keep coming back to the same comment like I said before. You obviously advertise your brand as non-alcoholic beer, but the flavors are all there. It tastes great. The stigmata of a non-alcoholic beer just ruins your brain, folks. So if you're listening out there, this is where it's at. We obviously have not talked a little bit about your brewery, Athletic Brewing Company. Tell us a little bit where you're located from region perspective, and how long you've been in brewing for the situation.
Yeah, so I actually think that we signed our lease 3 years ago today in Stratford, Connecticut, and that's where our main brewery was, or is currently. So we have a 3.5 barrel and a 7 barrel system there, and Bill and I signed that lease, and it was just a giant empty warehouse. We built that place from the ground up, and it took about 8 months. And in that 8 months, we were just going head to head with home brews, trying to figure out what exactly we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And then we launched commercially in May of 2018. So we've been live a little over 2 years. And, in February, we decided and closed on a new facility in San Diego. So now we have a second facility in San Diego, California, that has much greater capacity, because that was,
Nice.
we thought we had built a brewery in Connecticut that was going to last us like 5 years, and it lasted about 5 months.
Well, that's a good problem to have, I guess you could say there. So, but
Yeah.
well, let's go to the audience here for some questions here. Let me try to search for some good stuff here. This one's from Meg Kim, and she said, "What's the primary difference between the brewing process? How do you make a non-alcoholic beer versus a regular brewing process? Any insights there?"
Yeah, I mean, there are actually a handful of ways to make non-alcoholic beer. There's reverse osmosis, there's distillation and spinning cone. There's, you can cook it off if you want. There's a number of ways. And, our method is a little bit different, but really not different from brewing in general. It's all the same ingredients, all the same equipment. We have 12 little tweaks along the brewing process that, enables our beer to wind up at a fully fermented 0.5 or under 0.5%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a unique perspective to your own business, as well as many ways to kind of reduce the alcohol from the individual beer itself. But I think what I think is interesting about the product you guys have is, again, that it starts as a base beer, and it kind of you're focusing a lot of attention on the hops, the barley, the malts, the things that need to have beer in it. So I think that helps significantly drive the taste, which is very different than most other non-alcoholic beverages that I've tried. It's more about, let's make a non-alcoholic beer. You guys seem to take the approach of, let's make a beer, then let's thin the alcohol, and that'll be the product itself. So it's really cool to see that aspect there. And like I said, you in terms of your beer itself, are you delivering this or shipping this out there? How can people get a chance to try your product from that perspective?
Yeah, so we're going pretty wide as far as distribution. We're in a handful of states on the coasts, and we're also available all the time, anytime on our e-commerce website. So you can, buy. I think we're back on Amazon now, and you can go to our website, and we ship direct to consumer, and it's awesome. We have subscription models. We've got all sorts of stuff available. And then we're also nationwide in a couple chains, like Total Wine.
Nice. Very cool. That's actually where I picked up mine at Total Wine. So there you go. Awesome. So, so obviously, we'll give some plugs at the end of the show where you can order your beer and have it shipped directly to you as well. If you're watching, you want to try it out, because it's definitely something unique. I think that, on Untappd, we have a lot of users that love to try different things. I think that's one of the things that we actually kind of have started our service for, is to get you outside your comfort zone, try different products and try different styles. And, again, I think that the stigmata of non-alcoholic beer is something that you need to shake off, because this is obviously an incredible beverage to try, as well as not have those effects of alcohol that you don't really need. Especially, I have a 2-year-old and a kid on the way. I don't need to be a little buzzed at night there. I need to enjoy my beverage and get my kid to bed. So that's kind of the way that I look at it from that side there. Let's go to some more questions here as well. This one is from John Waring. The new Athletic Brewing Closer by the Mile IPA is fantastic. Any chance it'll become a year-round offering?
We may have some iteration of that becomes a year-round offering, but that was made specifically for the Pan Math Challenge, and all of those. We brewed that beer specifically for that cause, so all the benefits went to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. We're super psyched. We were able to raise about $75,000 for that cause, and that was super awesome.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think, we talked a little bit about, your brewery, the San Diego influence. What about your individual experience? How did you get into this field of brewing? And did you always start with non-alcoholic beverages, or was that something that came from this particular role here?
I started brewing in Santa Fe, New Mexico, close to 10 years ago at Second Street Brewery. And so we had a couple brew pubs, awesome little place, incredible teachers, and an awesome brewing community just in general in New Mexico. And so that's kind of where I learned. And then, 3+ years ago, I met Bill, and he had this mission and vision to make non-alcoholic beer great. And I, the family and I jumped at the opportunity and moved from making really delicious alcoholic beer for Second Street and took this up.
Very cool. Awesome. Ultimately, autumn is around the corner, and we don't know how when it will actually become cold around this northern parts. It's hot as hell every single time I go outside. But what are the kind of the flavors that you guys are looking at from a non-alcoholic perspective for the autumn kind of style? Oktoberfest kind of rings to mind from a style perspective. Is that something you guys are thinking about from a product expansion perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Oktoberfest out in the market presently for September, October, and then in October we're also going to be releasing our brown, and that's called Stump Jumper. And then in what's the next month? November. We're going to be releasing our Harvest Ale, which is one of my favorites, and it utilizes a bunch of Connecticut ingredients. So we've got Connecticut grown malt, and then we've also got New York and Connecticut grown hops. So it's really interesting, just kind of Harvest IPA.
Very cool. If you're joining us today, we're talking to John Walker. He's the co-founder and head brewer at Athletic Brewing Company in Connecticut, where they focus primarily on non-alcoholic beverage. If you want to ask John a question, we'd love to hear from you. Use the chat on your own platform, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. And we'd love to throw some of those questions up on the screen itself. So thank you very much in advance for your questions. Why did you pick San Diego for your second location? Is it more about distribution, being on one side of the coast, or just more of a big brewery city, which we all know that kind of influenced your decisions there?
It's a combination. So we, having a really awesome e-commerce platform that we found that we have a huge, fan base and customer base in California and in the West. And so we ship a lot of beer, and we understand that that's costly and, takes time. So the West kind of made sense. And then this facility opened up, which is the former Ballast Point Trade Street facility opened up. And it was like the perfect size. And it's an incredible facility. And so we looked at that, and it just so happened to be in San Diego, which is like one of the best craft beer communities in the country, honestly. And so it was, all those put together, and to be able to join that community with the support structure out there was kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to the some more questions here. This one's from Earl Parker. And Earl writes, can you do a barrel-aged style beer without the alcohol? And what other styles can't be done when it comes to non-alcoholic beers?
I hesitate to say that some styles can't be done, because we thought that this couldn't be done. So, we're always trying new stuff. So I don't know that there's anything that can't be done. Not the only, but one of the restraints that we have to abide by on any given day is food safety, because of alcoholic. We don't have the ethanol to fight bacteria or pathogens of any sort. So being conscious and very stringent in our, processes and lab protocols it's not prohibitive, but it's definitely consuming and takes a lot of time.
Makes sense. All right. Here's another question from Tom, and Tom writes, are you experimenting to bring non-alcoholic porters or stronger flavors to the market?
Absolutely. So at both facilities, we, in addition to our production facilities, we have pilot systems at both places, and our brewers are tasked, if you can call it tasked, with creating new beers at, every single day. So Dave in Connecticut actually just made a American Robust Porter that is available in the tap room right now. So every week we're turning, 2 to 4 different new styles. So it's kind of our playground.
That's got to be pretty cool to kind of look at that kind of test profile or test batch and say, hey, got an idea with something, we're going to roll with it. How do you guys decide which one of those, if they do get into the more of the mainstream line, or is this more of like, I know that obviously with COVID, we're all kind of shut down with our tap rooms perspective, but I imagine a lot of that stuff goes to your tap room. And then from there, how does it get moved up into a more of a production batch?
A lot of internal discussion, and then there's some marketing discussion, but also we really use our e-commerce platform and our fan base out there who we're in contact with every single day, and they give us the best feedback there is. It's like our own little tap room. So when they order these things, taste them, and we get this direct feedback, then we know if it's a hit or a miss or what needs work. So it's fun and engaging.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of test the market, from a lack of a better word. We have a lot of beta testers and super users on Untappd that kind of give us feedback from some of the features we have. It sounds like it's almost the same thing on your side, where these are kind of your brand loyalists, for lack of a better word, that go through and kind of give you feedback from that side. Ultimately, one of the awesome things about your company is the branding and the marketing, all the stuff that you do to promote healthier lifestyles. I noticed on some of your Instagram channels you having a bike across America. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how that came to be?
Yeah, so I believe that was Mason's idea. And late Mason is our lead adventurist. And so he kind of comes up with these ideas and talks to our ambassadors across the country. And the idea was to celebrate the opening of the San Diego brewery by riding from Connecticut all the way to San Diego. And so we had our ambassadors and certain teammates literally pass a baton off every like 300 miles. And so they are concluding that on Sunday in San Diego. And all along the way, they've been stopping and doing like trail cleanups and doing awareness. And so it's super awesome. It took a lot of work. And yeah, it's incredible.
How many people were involved with this project? Because I can imagine you'd have to have every 300 miles, you got to have somebody at least to turn it over. This is more of a sign up thing from your ambassadors, or this is kind of employee driven, or how did that all come together?
It was kind of a combination of the two. And so Mason put up this incredible map and layout and platform of how it was going to roll out. And he's done this before, taking crews across the country. So it was super organized, and people, could choose their routes.
Nice.
And, the slots were taken up really quickly.
That's pretty crazy. If you have a chance, definitely follow Athletic Brewing Company on Twitter. On Instagram. There's a lot of great stories that they've posted of people kind of riding along, and it's interesting to see people drinking a beer while they're riding. But that's what they're doing. They're getting hydrated. They're enjoying it, and it's a great kind of perception to have there. Obviously, it fits really well within your branding from an athletic perspective there. So that's really exciting on that front. In terms of next steps here for your brewery, we talked about your expansion over to San Diego as well. What does the future look like for you guys? Is it more of expansion at this point, or is it more online sales? And what's the future look like for not just non-alcoholic style, but more your brewery overall?
I think that what we want to do is first really just satisfy the bases that we have right now. We spent a lot of time in the recent history being out of stock, and so trying to overcome that with our capacity is number one. And satisfying e-commerce and getting more varieties out there, on a regular basis. But ultimately, I think we would love to be like the non-alcoholic beer, and to break down the stigma and to normalize it, not just for athletic, but the whole world. Like alcoholic beer is normal, and it's delicious, and it's great. And so, we would love to be that beer that is synonymous with that, and go and grab an athletic, and it's a positive choice, and that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. One question just popped up here in the chat here. This is from Lars. And Lars, is there going to be a taster room at the San Diego location on that?
There isn't in the immediate future, and that might just be a proximity item, but we're definitely looking into doing it because it would be awesome. And I think in the meantime, we're going to get some of those bike carts. We're going to
nice,
ride up and down the beaches, and they already exist. So
there you go. Easy to obtain. I think one of the things about like our post today on the non-alcoholic flavors is that it just continued to grow in popularity. We see other breweries now starting to make big ones. Brooklyn Brewery is one that comes to mind. They have a non-alcoholic beverage that they produce as well. It's interesting perspective. Talking about innovation, like you mentioned at the top of the show. This has just not gone through that same rigorous test that craft beer has gone. We've had these crazy things of, slushy beers and going all off the rails of these things here. But the premise of beer, it's pretty interesting. We see commercials in the United States now for Heineken's version of their non-alcoholic beverage. So I think that there's definitely obviously a market for it. and really there's interest a lot from the community and the base. One thing I find really interesting about your products is that on Untappd, they're rated pretty high considering compared to what other non-alcoholic beverages are. Do you think that's because of the fact that you're advertising it as non-alcoholic beverage and they're drinking it as a beer, or is it that people just, or there are other reasons why? Because we talked about this earlier on the show, like, if you change the label and don't tell me there's alcohol in it, I probably would not even know. That's just a testament to the goodness of your product. Do you think that's kind of some of your strategy by saying up front what it is and getting people to get their own restrictions based on what it is?
No, I'd like to think that people are judging it equally. And that's kind of what we built it for, is just to stand up, not against, but with, all craft brews that everybody knows. It just happens to be the non-alcoholic version of what they love. And so, I'd like to think that they're, really just judging it based on the liquid and the qualities.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, thank you so much for being part of the show. We really appreciate your insights into the non-alcoholic flavors. I'm sold, man. This is a great beverage. My wife can drink it while she's pregnant, and she loves it too. So that's all that helps that scenario. Want to give you an opportunity to have any type of final thoughts, and people can find you on social and how they can order your beer on your website.
Yeah, so we're thank you first and foremost, and thanks Untappd. You guys are awesome. What you guys do and have done in the past is pretty incredible. So for the brewing community, you can find us. We're at Athletic Brewing on all the Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and then we're also athleticbrewing.com, and we've got all our stories about all our ambassadors and our projects and stuff like that. And you can also order there. We have subscriptions and an awesome e-commerce platform, and we can usually get you beer out the door the next day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we try hard, and we have an awesome e-commerce team, and it's a pretty great place. And then past that, your local store, and if we're not there, ask for us.
Now, are you shipping to all states in the United States, or is there only certain areas that you guys are shipping to?
We're shipping to, I think, 46 states. There are a couple states in this country that have some antiquated laws, and the verbiage, says that we are alcoholic, so we can't ship legally. But we're doing our best to get into distribution in those states or to change the verbiage.
Very good. I just see a comment here that says, "Can I drink it at lunch?" And you can drink it at lunch because that's the whole point about it. So, John, thank you so much for being part of the show. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching our Tuesday virtual app here. I hope you had a great time. I know I did. I want to tell you a little bit about what's coming up on Thursday. We're talking to Eugenia Brown, who is Black Beer Chick. She'll be talking about all of the stuff that's happening within Charlotte beer scene, a couple of other things as well. And check out the schedule at untappd.tv for all the info, as well as what's happening on the following week, which is next Tuesday. We're talking to JC from Trillium. Yes, folks, he is the god of brewing, and he's coming on the show, and we're excited to have him on there. So check out the schedule again, untappd.com/TV. We'll be happy to see you there. If you want to listen to the audio version of this particular show as well, we're on our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. So check us out there. And finally, if you have any feedback for the show, you want me to wear a crazy hat or change my background or something crazy, let us know at media@untappd.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching tonight, and we'll see you again on Thursday with Eugenia Brown, Black Beer Chick. Thanks again. Have a